Hello and welcome. Today we're taking a look at Sanitized AK-74 magazines. Now I recently picked this up for about $20 at a gun show, partially because the guy didn't know what he had and partially because I didn't know what it was. So today we're going to do a little bit of learning. First off, I'm pretty sure that this is ultimately an Ashev's-made plum magazine that has had its markings ground off and then it's been painted with this thick lacquer black paint. So you can see the remnants of what was a triangle down there. Everything else about the magazine pretty well matches to this tulip plum here, and I think these were done in an effort to obfuscate where they came from. These magazines themselves have been kicking around often with Made in Bulgaria stickers for over 15 years, but underneath the black paint is in fact a Russian-made plum AK-74 magazine. We can tell this even before removing the paint because they only painted the outside. Admittedly, I was hoping it was perhaps a painted East German Bakelite magazine, but while those are often painted black, they still have their mold marks, and Bakelite magazines don't have the reinforcing ribs that later generations of 74 mags do. The only other thing of note, which was of course of note to me, but ultimately is just incorrect, is the follower had 5.56x45 written on it. The 5.56 follower label was simply incorrect. As you can see, compared to a regular AK-74 mag, it's the same. Whereas compared to this Baril magazine, where you can see the actual 5.56 follower sits up significantly higher to account for smaller case diameter of the 5.56 round. Regardless, what we're going to do is take the paint off of this one. I'll probably leave this one painted, but I'm going to take the paint off of this guy and see what we've got going on underneath it and see how that plum looks like after we strip all this black paint off. Using Citrus Strip, I roughly applied it with a brush, waited about 15 minutes, removed what paint would come off with some abrasion. Rinsed the magazine, and repeated until we were left with a nice deep purple plum. It was kind of a mess. At one point, I considered rebranding my entire YouTube channel to just be satisfying videos of jet blasting paint off of surplus equipment. But for today, I'll stick to whatever it is we do around here. The final bit of paint I basically scratched off my fingernails, which still makes them hurt even as I edit this video. Probably should have just sprung for another round of Citrus Strip instead. The end result was definitely worth it, however. You can clearly see where the original factory and mold marks were sanded off aggressively enough to start to expose the embedded metal reinforcing in a few places. We could even barely see the distinct remnants of the Ashev's triangle. Still, with a little ballistol, the mag is now displaying its lovely chocolatey plum color and even has a few flecks. While I will likely leave the other painted, I think the before and after are at least insightful should you come across one of these in the wild. While it's objectively not as nice or as valuable as an unmolested plum magazine, it is a solid Russian AK-74 magazine that I still think looks quite nice. And that's all we've got for today. Thank you for tuning in, hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you next time.